we have the majority of our participants here tonight, so we will go ahead and get started. I'll first start by introducing myself. My name is Rebecca Drury. I am a Senior Associate Director here at the College of Charleston's Office of Admissions. I want to start by congratulating each and every one of the students out there on this amazing achievement of being admitted to our iCharleston program. We once again have had a record number of applications to the College of Charleston this year. We are up in applications by about 20%. And so that means that it has only gotten harder to get into the College of Charleston. But we took a look at your applications and we were so excited to be able to offer each and every one of you this amazing experience that is iCharleston. I am joined by a few of my colleagues, Dr. Bruce Fleming and Corey Chamberlain, who you'll get to hear from them a little bit later. But a few housekeeping items before we continue. We are in a webinar feature, so if you could please utilize the Q&A feature instead of the chat feature to get your questions out there, that would be great. It helps for everyone to be able to see it, and then also us keep track of those questions a little bit easier. And then this is being recorded, and we will send it out to everyone at the end of the session. Probably, though, a little bit later, but by Friday. We have to do a few technical things to get it out there to you all. But again, we're super excited to have you all join us tonight. And we're going to start off by just seeing where everyone's coming from. You can see that within this program, people are still coming from all over. We have 2 Californians out there, a Minnesota, a Nebraska, Texas, the good old state of Virginia, where I'm from. Hello, Virginians. Florida, North Carolina, New York. So you're still getting a very vast and broad student experience of getting to know people from all over. But then, of course, getting to go with your cohorts to London, Dublin, or Rome, and also getting that international experience and meeting other students that way as well. So we are super excited to have such a wide range of students from the U.S. joining us in this program. We're going to cover a few different things tonight. Of course, we're going to cover the background of iCharleston, give you the information. It has been an amazing experience and program for our students for many, many years. Dr. Fleming will talk about that here in the next couple of minutes. And then we're going to highlight some of those important dates. Feel free to write them down, take pictures of these slides, utilize the iCharleston but the iCharleston website for those dates. It's all been updated. And then we'll get into some of that additional information as well. For any of those who will be going to Dublin, this view here is in Ireland. So one that you will get to see here soon. But with that being said, I am going to pass it over to Dr. Fleming to give us some more information.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody. And I'd offer my own congratulations. This is the 9th iteration of iCharleston. We established it in 2014. And when we started to think about the iCharleston program, we started to think about what we call high impact practices. So the whole goal behind iCharleston was offering an early study abroad opportunity to a select group of first-year students. And a high impact practice can be an internship, it can be a leadership opportunity on campus, it could be perhaps research with faculty, but it's also study abroad as a high impact practice. And we know that high impact practices allow for higher retention. We know that the graduations rates are stronger. We know there's a much better connection to your institution when you do a high impact practice. So if high impact practice kind of were all these things, we thought, why not start this whole thing earlier than that traditional junior year abroad? And so we kicked off in 2014 in London and Dublin in a city called Kelowna in Canada. It's near and dear to my heart because that's where I grew up. And we had 21 students that first year as a pilot project. And as we built from there, we started to see growth in 2015, 2016, and we get up to currently what our maximums are, which is about 80 students across all 3 locations. In 2019, we added Rome. Sadly, I retired Kelowna, but I retired it to replace it with Rome, which is one of the great cities in Europe. And from there, we've grown exponentially beyond 80 or so students in those 3 locations, 3 very popular European locations. So we wanted to establish a larger footprint internationally for the College of Charleston. We had a president at that point that saw that as a very popular and goal-setting component for the institution. And so if you add that to the high impact practice and the fact that we thought a first-year study abroad would be something that could be very appealing to inbound students, then that's how we came up with iCHarleston. So myself and a good friend of mine, gentleman named Jimmy Foster, who at the time was in the admissions division, created iCHarleston, and then we brought on people like Rebecca, people like Corey Chamberlain, who have helped mold and shape the program. And we're excited to continue on for 2023. Just some background, we've come up with some metrics. So is part of the program and in your offer letter, you need to achieve a 2.6 GPA in the fall term, and you need to complete 12 transferable credits. So a transferable credit is a C or higher, and that is a standard US college policy. And the 2.6 obviously is based on 5 classes that you will take, or 15 total credits that you will register for at the start of the fall term. To give you a little bit of information, historically, our retention rate from fall abroad to the spring on campus at College of Charleston is 92 to 94% per cohort. So that's very strong. We're happy with that. Our first year retention, which would be for us, the spring term and then the fall term, so spring to spring, while you're at the College of Charleston, is about 87%. And to put that in perspective, the cohort of first year students bound in fall for a full year at the College of Charleston have about an 82% first year retention. And then I'm going to throw out some numbers about 4-year graduation rates. So 28% nationwide students graduate in 4 years. A bit of a challenging number. College of Charleston does quite well at the 4-year retention graduation rate. It's about 55%. And our program, our 4-year graduation rate per 4 cohorts that have graduated over the term, between 40 and 53%. And so if there's a conversation out there saying this is going to put me behind in my 4-year plan for graduation, that's not the case. You will come back with 15 academic credits, and you will be ready to move in as a second term first year student moving forward to your 4-year graduation rate. We have site director staff, so we hire for 3 reasons. First off, these are graduated College of Charleston students, so they have a knowledge of the college. They have gone through the first year program at the College of Charleston. They have gone on a study abroad or 2, depending on their time frame. So they've had personal study abroad experiences. And then they also have experience working with first year students. They may be a peer academic coach. They may have been a peer facilitator, maybe an orientation intern, maybe a resident assistant. They live near the students while abroad. So they're there for the entire time the students are abroad in the fall. They will facilitate a weekly class that we call Passport to CofC. So it is a weekly kind of cultural class, studies class, support class that gets students understanding what that transition from high school to college is like, and then getting ready for the transition into College of Charleston in the spring. They will do monthly one-on-one meetings with students. Obviously, they can meet more regularly if required. And then they also will do some programming specific to the group. So in past years, popular programs have been things like Dinner Club, where they'll take 4 or 5 students out each week and go to a different restaurant and just have a chance to socially engage and interact. They've gone to sporting events. There are weekend tours that have been planned. They've gone to theater events. So an opportunity to kind of experience the location that you're living in with a little bit of guidance. And the biggest thing is that a site director returns back to the College of Charleston campus in spring for that additional support. The location's obviously very urban, but the biggest thing is it's experiential learning. You have a shared living experience with other program participants. The residential components are apartment-style living. They're fully equipped kitchens. No meal plans, so that's something to chat about early on, about how are you going to feed yourself and such, but you have that opportunity to kind of learn some things, buy your groceries, figure all that out, and partner with your roommates to do dinners together. The partners we use look very similar to U.S. institution in terms of they have residential supervisors within the buildings. They've got academic, they've got mental, they've got medical support necessary for students when they are going through that fall transition. We also have partner professional staff on the ground that will support not only our site directors, but also the students at each city. The one thing I would say about our locations is, as we said, they're urban, so they're apartment style living. They may not be completely close to the university, so you're expecting somewhere between a 10 and 20-minute walk to the academic buildings that you will be utilizing. So, as I said, 2023 becomes our 9th edition iCharleston, and we've got over 450 successful program alumni in this venture. Some additional information, just real brief. I would always point everybody to our website, the ichs.cofc.edu website, as that has a lot of the more extensive dates and costs and information about housing and academics and all that. But the kind of critical components, first thing is we will have group flights. We're going to travel together. And that will be built out by our travel agent. We'll have more information on that in May. It is required for you to travel as a group. We will have staff members. So there is Rebecca and most likely myself will be taking the London group over. We've got other staff members for Dublin and Rome. Dublin will be Cam Salibi, and Rome, actually, you know what? I think I'm still trying to figure out who's taking Rome. So Rome will have someone, I promise you. But yeah, so you'll have someone taking you over, and our site directors will go over 10, maybe 12 days in advance after doing training on our campus to kind of do their final professional training with our partners, getting themselves settled in their locations and ready for your arrival. Now, last year, London and Dublin flew out of JFK, and Rome flew out of Newark. So just, again, it's going to be JFK, going to be Newark. That was what we did last year. We will keep with JFK, Newark, unless there's some airline situations where we may just be flying purely out of JFK or purely out of Newark, but it will be that Northeast New York area. You can expect costs somewhere between $1,000 and $1,400 for that airfare. And that will be a very simple process. Our travel agents will be contacting you, and you'll be working with them to make that payment. Orientation, this is required for both students and parents. Our program partners will be on site July 19th and 20th. That's a Wednesday and Thursday on our campus. And you'll meet the partners who will be there at each location, who are not only supporting our site directors, but also supporting our students. You'll meet the site director team. They start that week, their initial training for the program. So you'll meet your entire site director team and who's going to be there with your students. And you'll just get a real thorough orientation to the iCharleston program over a 2-day period and be downtown on our campus. So the experience overall is very much inside and outside classroom learning. So I mentioned before, the previous slide, the experiential componentry to iCharleston. So I'll give you some examples. So in London, there is a course called Sporting London. You may take it, you may select to take it. And in Sporting London, they may talk about Wimbledon, the tennis center, and they may then jump on the train and literally go to Wimbledon and do a tour of Wimbledon as part of that class experience. In Rome, they take a class called Roman Archaeology on site. And Roman Archaeology uses the entire city of Rome as a learning laboratory. So think about some of those amazing sites in Rome. You'll be showing those sites, and you'll have an opportunity to experience those. Dublin has 2 weekend excursions, and they are tied to the Irish Life and Cultures class, which is a required class for the Dubliners. You'll go up to the north. You'll learn about the Troubles in Belfast, Derry, Ulster. And then you'll also go out to the West Coast, where you'll learn about the Gaelic culture, and you'll travel to Galway and the Aran Islands and see the Cliffs of Moher, which, as Rebecca pointed out earlier, was that picture on that early slide. You have a learning management system, which is an online portal where grades, attendance, anything that's listed in there is available. It'll be no different than the learning management system process that we use at the College of Charleston. Ours is called OAKS. We have our own little kind of experience there that you will start to utilize and learn and get ready for College of Charleston. And this learning management system is different at each location, specific to our partners there. That site director will continue to support and mentor. There'll be a conversationalist, there'll be a shoulder to lean on, and the entire first year you'll be with that site director. So they'll return with the students to CofC campus. And our ratio, it's about 1 site director to about 16 to 20 students, which is an amazing ratio at the first year experience. You don't see that at any other institution, and this program provides that very unique experience to support that first year transition all the way through. So we do have staff and faculty that visit, so I tend to go to every site twice throughout the year. I will send my colleagues, my faculty, and my staff colleagues over to the different locations once a month. So the whole goal there is kind of helping our students in the program start to build their network of support at CofC. So when they return to CofC in the spring and they're walking on our bricks, they will run into people that were at their location, and they will be able to say hello and chat with them. And now they've built that support network of not just the site director, but upwards of 6 or 7 additional people. They can be there to help them kind of move that transition into the College of Charleston. And lastly, the visiting bit is great. Fall break, each location has a fall break in October. It's a week long when students don't have classes. Thanksgiving is another great time. Students will be in class. There is no Thanksgiving in Europe, as we all know. It's only a Canadian and American holiday. It's great because you have a built-in tour guide. And if you show up in October, 6 or 8 weeks after your son or daughter has traveled and been there, they will help show you around their new location. And you can see the development and the growth and the maturation right in front of your eyes. It's really, really cool to watch, and the students have an amazing experience from that perspective. So that's kind of the additional information. I know Rebecca wants to talk a little bit about the next steps overall, and then we can probably get to some questions.
Yes, awesome. Every time we do this presentation each year, I just get more and more excited for the students that get to go. And let me just say, I am very jealous. But I know we had this question already come through, wondering when the students will be finding out their final site locations. That is going to come to you next week. Yes, April 6th. So students, keep an eye on your emails for next week. That is when you will be given that final site selection. May 1st is when those participant policy forms are due. So again, email y'all is key. You're going to not just be looking at your email for iCHRLSTON, but then starting really this summer and into the fall, again, checking your emails for classes, at these forms, your flights, so with the travel agent that Bruce mentioned. So everything will be communicated to you mainly through email. But again, participant policy forms are due on May 1st. May 15th is when the airfare payment must be submitted by. And again, if there's any questions on that, then we will work with our travel agent and Bruce to determine those questions that you might have. And then again, required is that orientation on campus on July 19th and 20th. And then the fun times really do begin. August 22nd is when London will depart. August 29th, Rome will depart. And then September 5th, Dublin will leave the US. But remember, for those who may not have traveled abroad before, a lot of international flights in the US leave at night, and you are traveling throughout the night to arrive in your location the next day. So London will arrive on August 23rd. Rome will arrive August 30th. Dublin will arrive September 6th. But then when you come back, London will come home to the States on December 9th, followed by Rome on December 15th, and Dublin on December 16th. So you all will still get just about a whole month or so, 3 weeks for that winter break, which is really nice before you have to move in to our campus in January. Anything you want to add to those dates, Bruce? You're muted.
There we go. All right. The only thing I would say to that is check the iCHS website, because those dates are the starting and the ending point. There are additional dates within there in terms of the fall break, anything else that is necessary from when you leave to when you depart.
Cool. Yes, for sure. Awesome. Well, I know that we have some questions that have come in. I didn't skip a slide, did I, Bruce? No, okay. So what I will do is, so that y'all can see us a little bit better, is I'm going to stop sharing, and we will get some of these additional questions answered. And we'll start with Harry's question, and maybe Corey, if you want to fully introduce yourself and take this one. Harry has asked, can students travel independently during fall break or weekends, etc.?
Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Chamberlain. I was one of the site directors in Rome last semester, and I will be going to London this upcoming fall. Students have a lot of free weekends that they're more than able to travel on their own. You do have to keep in mind things like some students may have Friday classes, so make sure you're going to those and not missing any important exams. Also, with the Rome site, there will be a group trip to the Amalfi Coast, so that should be posted on the AUR website, the dates for that. And then in Dublin, there are a few weekend trips with their Irish Life and Culture class. Those are typically the first couple weekends they're there. But aside from that, there's a lot of freedom for the students on the weekends.
Great. When do we have to pay tuition by?
So if you're going to be placed in London, Dublin, you should expect to pay tuition sometime after June 1st, and Rome will be August 1st. That tuition money doesn't come to us. It does not go through College of Charleston. You will pay our program providers directly. The costs are on our website, and as Rebecca said about email, they will facilitate that all electronically. So keep that in the back of your mind that you're looking for those bills in your email, and sometimes, unfortunately, they tend to go to junk mail. So keep that in the back of your mind as well.
Awesome. We have a few questions in regards to visas. Are students required to get their own visas?
Yeah, so London and Dublin is quite easy. Our providers will provide all the documents, all the information. You do not need any type of visa. You'll need an entrance letter. The entrance letter will be given to you. It will be printed off, the whole 9 yards. Very simple. Rome, unfortunately, you will need to get a visa, and we will have a special session middle of April with our partners in Rome. So once we get our Rome cohort organized, we will have a special session with our Rome partners, and they will walk you through it. It is very dependent upon where you live in the area or live in the country of where you will go. So for example, if you are in North Carolina, you will go to Philadelphia to do that process, or it may be a mail-in. Sometimes you have to go to the location where it is. Sometimes you get to mail it in. It is a specific experience dependent upon geographically where you are. So, but the main line of that is that we will support that with our partners. Don't panic.
Awesome. We have a question in regards to the airfare, and I can answer this one about it being round trip. And yes, the the number that Bruce mentioned earlier, the $1,000 to $1,400 is round trip. Bruce, do you know off the top of your head when the when fall break is potentially? I know it likely varies on location, but
It does. So that information is on our website. You can find, and it's per location. So if you click on the London link, you'll see all the dates on there. London is the first break, then it is Rome, and then it's Dublin. And I think it's middle of October for London, then like the 23rd or 24th for Dublin, and then, or sorry, Rome, and then maybe the 31st for Dublin.
Corey, would you maybe mind getting the website to put in the chat for everyone, for people to just easily click on for us?
Yeah, I'll put that right in there.
Thank you. Next question, Bruce, if you wouldn't mind maybe highlighting a little bit about housing for when students return in the spring. Do they find their roommates? Do they get last pick? Those sorts of things.
Yep. So housing is required for spring. You have to live on campus and you have to have a freshman meal plan. We will work with the cohorts and get them organized into housing. They will complete the same process for housing in the spring as if they were coming in as a first-year student. In the fall, they will complete the housing application. They'll say, hey, I want to live in Berry Hall first. I want to live in McAllister second. And I want to live in Liberty as a third. I've met my best friend in London, so I want to live with him. Or I met someone from Dublin and I was in Rome and we want to live together. Our housing people will work and set that all up and organize it, and you'll have your housing information before the holidays. The one thing that we've learned in this program, and it actually surprised me in my first couple of years, is the majority of the students are very confident and comfortable living kind of solo, meaning put me in the mix and just put me in a single with 4 or 5 other students that have already been on campus. So it wouldn't be surprising if that trend continues.
Awesome. I don't think we answered this one earlier, but correct me if I'm wrong. How many students are in each location?
Okay. We have bed space for 40 in London. We have bed space for 24 in Rome, and we have bed space for 20 in Dublin.
Awesome. Corey, since you have been on campus with our students from this past cohort, what activities, or are there activities for the students in the spring for them to get acclimated when they return to CofC's campus?
Yeah, so the students will participate in January orientation here with other bridge students and transfer students to the college. So that's a pretty big group of people. Obviously, they'll be with their iCHRLSTN peers, but also new people right away. There will be events with that. And then once they're on campus fully for the semester, they'll be meeting in groups with their site directors, again, with iCHRLSTN students. And there's also weeks of welcome on campus. So lots of different events going on for all new students and just current students. We also do certain programming events through the program still. So we'll support Kudu coffee events, having all students come, just get some free coffee on us and catch up. We've taken students to basketball games. And there's just a ton of events going on campus, from Greek life to involvement fairs, different ways to get involved.
Definitely. This is a good one. How do students typically handle cell phone service?
Corey, I think you should answer that one. You were there with them.
Yes, so your site director, usually the first day, will take you to get a phone plan. This does vary depending on site, but I know in Rome, we were guided by the AUR staff to get SIM cards at a store, and then that would kind of help you communicate. You can obviously go for like a lower end plan or a higher end depending on your needs. But most students had no issues using those plans and communicating with family and friends back home, and then also in Europe.
And remember too, Wi-Fi, you're going to have Wi-Fi. So if you did get a lower end talk text plan, then you would still be able to use the Wi-Fi on campus. And back when I was abroad in 2013, SIM cards and everything were not a thing. So I would roam around London without one, and it was an experience, but I made it. And this is maybe it's specifically asking about London, but let's maybe answer it for all 3 locations. Will there be students from other universities besides the CofC attending classes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we start with London. London is a study abroad provider for upwards of 55 US-based institutions. All the students there are going to be American. We are in what we call a closed program in London, which means you will take classes only with the iCHRLSTON students. But you may live with students from Wisconsin, or you may live with students from Drexel, or you may live with students from Santa Clara. When you go to Dublin, you have 2 required classes. You have your English class and your Irish Life and Cultures class that are going to be specifically our group. And then you will be selecting other courses where you could be the only American with a bunch of people from Ireland. You could be the only American with a bunch of people from Germany, Sweden, all that stuff. So that's a very mixed group there. And then American University of Rome, it's a little smaller. It's 500, maybe 600 students. And half of those are non-matriculating, meaning that they're there for a term or maybe a year. And so you may be with a bunch of students from Rome, you may be a bunch of students from America. It just is very dependent upon how that all mixes up. Again, in Rome, we have 2 required classes, the Roman archaeology and the English class that is specific to our group.
Awesome. The next one, and another great one, how do students get medications if it's a prescribed medication or maybe they get sick? How do they go about doing so?
Yeah. So you will work with your doctor here in the US if you need to bring in medication. You're allowed an allotment that should get you pretty close to the end of the term. There are rules and regulations you have to follow, and that will all be explained at our orientation in the summer by our providers. They'll lay it out very clearly. If you do end up, getting a cold, or you unfortunately step off a curb and maybe hurt your ankle or something like that, not only our providers are there to support that, the resident assistants and such. They'll work with the different staff members to get you the medical need that you have at that point. So you will have insurance. Part of your piece for Rome is you've got to carry international insurance that is very reasonable in cost, but you have to have it to get to the visa process. And when I say reasonable in cost, last year it was like, I think maybe $225 for the 4 months for full coverage. In London and Dublin, you get that coverage as part of your fee. So
great question here. What are challenges that students have faced in these in our program like iCHRLSTON? I'm more so thinking in the context of students away for the first time.
Yeah, I think Corey, that'd be a great one for you.
Yeah, so it's definitely a big adjustment. Students are coming from a lot of different backgrounds and different high schools, especially considering that you guys are all in school during COVID. It can be a big adjustment to being in person and then far from home, but all the students have handled it really well. But there are times where it's going to be homesickness is kicking in. It's probably going to be a bit different than your style of teaching and learning that you experienced in high school. But there's obviously site directors that are there to support you. All the other students are in the same boat pretty much. So there's a great support system there. And then also with our partners through the American University of Rome or FIE, there's counseling services available as well.
Awesome. With the classes for this fall, when/how do we choose those? And is there a list of the classes on the iCHRLSTON website, or do they get this at orientation?
Yeah, that's another great question. So there is a list of the classes on the website. You'll under the academics tab, and you'll see each location's 12, 15 classes, and you'll see exactly what they are at the location, and you'll see exactly how they will transfer into the College of Charleston. So the courses you're going to take at the College of Charleston, at the program that come in to transfer into CofC, will fit into 3 buckets. They'll either be general requirements. So for example, everybody takes their English 110 equivalency abroad. So that counts as a check off in our general requirement. We have about 50 general requirement credits you have to take, or approximately 13 or 14 classes. And then we have your major classes, which are about 36 to 38 credits. And then you have just this bucket of things where people may do a double major, a second minor. They just may take yoga and sailing just for the heck of it. So all those classes will fit into that bucket towards 122 credits you need to graduate the College of Charleston, which is why we can graduate in 4 years. Once you complete the kind of what I would call a mini application process for the partner, and I'm going to say application, but it does not mean there is a second application. It's just their learning management system. Once you complete that biographical data and all that stuff, that is when you will select your classes. So that will happen sometime in May. You will get an email from our partners, and our partners will say, here you go. You need to complete this and select your classes. And if you answer your email quickly, you'll get it done quickly. And if you don't, you'll get it done later.
Is there a deadline for this, Bruce? I just saw that come in.
They tend to want that like turned around pretty quick. So when we send you that information out and our partner reaches out to you, which will be sometime in mid-May, they're going to expect that back within a couple of weeks because they're going to want to bill you June 1st for London and Dublin. And Rome needs to build their schedule because we have to remember that we're not the only students at Rome. Rome has another 500 or so students that we have to plunk into classes.
Great. For roommates for their semesters in London, Dublin, or Rome, are they living with other students in the College of Charleston cohort? Are they randomly assigned? Could you highlight a little bit on the living situation during their time abroad?
So the first thing I'll say about that is all housing stuff abroad is our partner's purview. We do not carry it. We don't touch it. We don't do anything about it. As part of that learning management system, that is when you will insert your housing stuff, and you will learn. You tend to learn about that stuff when you land, as opposed to orientation. But again, I would go back to what I said earlier: is that our partners make those determinations. We don't do anything about them. You will be living with iCHS students. We want to keep our students together in the same location. You may be living on the same floor as different students, and you may be living within close proximity to other students in different programs.
Great. I think this is a good one, and maybe Corey's or both Bruce as well. What extra costs should we be aware of?
Corey, you should answer that.
As far as when you're on the site, as Bruce and Rebecca mentioned, there is no meal plan. So definitely teaching students how to budget before going and making sure they understand kind of what that is in the beginning so it doesn't get kind of run up. So kind of balancing how many times you're grocery shopping versus eating out. Also going to want to pay for different things such as certain transportation passes, making sure you're recharging those each month. There are going to be certain fees associated with different classes depending on textbooks and supplies. And then obviously these students are abroad in these new cultures. They're probably going to want to get some souvenirs for themselves and family members, different clothes that they might want to buy, just kind of budgeting what you might need each month here, and then kind of factoring into the cost of whatever site your student's assigned to.
One thing I remember from, it's been a few years now that we mentioned in one of these sessions is in regards to the meal plan, or not having a meal plan. What a few students would do is they would get a group of 3 of them or so, and someone would pay to buy the groceries and the other person would cook the meal, and then they would switch. So different things like that are great things to do, but definitely also things to keep in mind as well. Is there a payment plan, or do you just pay all at once?
Yeah, so you have to pay our providers all at once. They're going to expect that up front on June 1st and August 1st.
I'm going to go back to kind of our map from the very beginning of the session earlier. And I know we mentioned we had some students from California and Texas and Nebraska. We have a question in regards to getting to New York for that group flight. Do the students have to get that airfare as well, essentially?
Yeah, you'll have to get to New York on your own cost. Our travel agent will work with you on that. When you work with our travel agent, each one is bespoke. So they'll sit there and talk to you and say, where are you coming from? When do you need to be there? And they'll partner all of that stuff together. And what they'll try to do is keep you on the same airline that you're using to go abroad, because then your luggage, when checked in at your initial spot, will then just continue with you all the way there. You don't have to go and get it, go back through security and all that. They make it as extremely simple as possible.
Yes. I'll get this one since I know they definitely know the answer to this one. The question is if parents come to the locations to get students settled in, similar to how they would do so in the States. Unfortunately not. You are more than welcome to come to New York, Newark, wherever it might be, to drop them off at the airport, send them through security, and then have them meet us, myself, Bruce, a few of the other of our colleagues who will be taking them over. But unfortunately, but fortunately at the same time, we do like for the students to take on this experience themselves when going over, kind of having that experience of doing it on their own. It really kicks off that maturation process from the get-go. But of course, as we mentioned earlier, we would love to have parent, family join them for a few days or so during breaks or throughout the semester as well. Let's see. I don't know this answer, but can they pay for tuition via a 529 plan with our partners?
So that becomes a bit of a challenge specific to the location. So London and Dublin are not registered in the US. Our partner is not a US based experience, so you cannot. In Rome, because they are accredited in the US and they have an American base in the US as well, that they can often work with you to take 529 or do some sort of other additional like payment options, whether it's a forward fund education that you've used for your bank or something of that nature. So those are all one-offs. And when we get to the payment part, what I would do is work with the person that you will be paying to. So our partner in London, Dublin, or our partner in Rome, and you can work with their financial people to determine how that's going to be paid out.
I like this one because I think it highlights a little bit, Bruce, and when you mentioned that your colleagues join the students once every month from campus. The question is, should we visit with an academic advisor at College of Charleston for the desired major to discuss appropriate elective classes, or will that happen when the email comes in mid-May?
So the iCHS group does have a dedicated academic advisor. His name is Dr. Bill Church. Bill is working currently with the cohort from this year. He's he's 2 floors up from where Corey's office is, and he's about 100 yards from my office. Bill's very clear in an understanding of the program. He actually visited every single site last year. I sent him on a 7-day milk run so that he could see all 3 sites. You will see him at orientation, and he'll talk about the advising plan. And then he will work with the students in the fall to get them prepped for that transition back into the spring. But your site director is going to play a very integral part of that. And so Corey and her current peers at the university right now, the other site directors, have been working on some different workshop programs for the fall. And one of them is academic advising, and they will help the students get prepped for that and have those meetings and be engaged. I would look at, my opinion is this, and Corey, you can jump in after because you may have a different opinion. My opinion is this on the academics. You will all take 2 required classes at each location that is set in your schedule. And the other 3 ones, you'll have about a dozen or so courses to choose. I would choose ones personally that are of interest to you because they will all fit something and go towards that ultimate graduation number. And so, I mentioned that Sporting London class. That class gets to go to the Olympic Park. It gets to go to Wimbledon. It gets to go to Chelsea Football Club. For me, that would be an absolute dream. There's an amazing music class in London, like kind of Cash Records Money, I think it's called. And it's all about the history of how music is made and developed. In Rome, you have some of these really awesome classes where you're out in the city and experiencing that. Take those opportunities because they may not come back around again. And so I would worry about it from that perspective. What do you want to learn and how much do you want to put into that effort?
Awesome. Corey, maybe you can take this one. Can you ship things to the apartment ahead of time and talk about what y'all do when the students arrive?
Yeah, so typically the answer would be no. Odds are you're not going to know the exact apartment location until you arrive at that site. It just kind of is how our partners handle the housing. But you obviously will get that information as soon as you get there. And you can have family send things over or ship things from Amazon. But each site will have a different procedure for how they accept packages, whether you send those directly to the school or to your address. And what was the second part, Rebecca?
I know like in London, they tend to do like a group shopping trip to Primark and things like that to get some of those larger maybe items like a pillow or things like that.
Yeah, so upon first arrival, you will be transported from the airport to your housing. We'll make sure you guys have time to get all of your luggage unpacked and kind of acclimate a little bit. You're probably going to be a bit tired, but it is best to just kind of power through the first day. We will make sure everyone has a chance to get familiar with the neighborhood. We'll do some tours of that. And then later on that week, tours of the city as well. So we'll take different groups to get groceries, your phone plan figured out, and then also any transportation passes, whether that's with like the buses or the tube in London, just making sure you have all those essentials that first day.
Speaking of luggage, and Jennifer brought this up literally as I was thinking of it. How much luggage / what size can they bring?
Yeah, so we got a pretty steadfast rule. You can check one bag, you can have a carry-on, and you can have a backpack. And that's it.
I will tell you, and Corey can probably attest to this as well, as someone who has been abroad for a whole semester before, I packed a whole semester worth of things in a 50-pound suitcase. You can do it. I promise you. This was a good one. Are there, and I know we've touched on it a little bit with some of the things that the site directors do, but are there any organized extracurriculars like sports or anything like that during their semesters abroad? And kind of related, but any organized service work in the communities that the students are in?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the service work. And then Corey, you definitely need to chat in about programming because that's your bailiwick. But so the service bit, you can't do a whole bunch of stuff like that because you don't have a working visa off campus. That's like you don't have that ability to do stuff off campus because the visa doesn't allow you. However, there are a couple of organized events, and it's specific to Dublin about the service. It's about kind of World Cleanup Day and things of that nature. So there are some of those opportunities in Dublin, but don't expect those in Rome or London. Programming wise, Corey, what did you guys do last year?
Yeah, so probably the most popular and frequent program would be the dinner clubs. So just taking a small group of students out and trying a new restaurant each week was very popular. There's also different sporting events and tours. So I know London went to a football, soccer game. Dublin, they did the Gaelic games, which was really cool. And in Rome, we did a tour of the Olympic Stadium. Many sites did boat tours, tours of museums. ancient monuments, things like that. We've done like sunset picnics, football in the park, just different things every week to kind of get the students involved, whether that is with the whole group or just a small cohort, getting to know them personally and having them bond that way. I know at Rome, you can also get involved with some of the sports teams there. We had a student on the basketball team last semester. He really enjoyed that, and some of the other students loved going to support that. I believe the two other sites in Dublin and London also have some ties with the local universities there as well.
And I'll add into that, and you'll hear it a few more times over the term of the program, but we have a budget at each location and the site directors control that budget. So there's two things. First off, if a student group says, hey, Corey, we really want to do this, then Corey can organize it and take care of that payment and such. So if you're worried about that additional cash, those things are all covered by us. And the second part of that is if your student is telling you on a routine basis, like, oh, my site director, Corey, keeps taking me to these places and it's like 10 pounds every time we go, they may be pulling your leg a little bit.
Awesome. Let's do this one before we end on another one. If a student does not get their first choice class, I'm guessing, Amy, maybe if you could clarify. Let's go with class though. If the student does not get their first choices in the class in regards to classes and others drop that class, is there an opportunity to switch? And then I do see it about the location as well.
So the class stuff, you'll complete that information, you'll send it into our partners. They'll always ask you to do 2 or 3 additional components so that if for some reason, it's not often if you don't get your first choice because of it filling up, it sometimes, so London's a great example, because it's a closed course and their courses are very experiential and often do many tours of stuff outside of the campus. They have a minimum they need to run. So they can't run a class with 3 students in it if it's not popular. And so they'll ask to go to that second piece. So when we do the site location emails next week, it will be laid out as to who gets what. We often will run a wait list in terms of students dropping out. But there isn't much change in those site locations because of the challenges with the visa process in Rome, for example. That process takes a very lengthy time. And so, for example, if a student didn't get Rome and a student from Rome dropped out, like say July 1st, which has happened before, there's no physical way that we can get that visa done in time. So we don't change once we do those site location emails.
And as someone who has had the privilege to go to each of these locations, I promise y'all, you cannot go wrong with any 3 of these locations. There's something so unique and fabulous about all 3 of them. And I mean, my personal favorite, if you wanted to know, is London. That's where I spent a whole semester abroad as well. But I promise you, every single location is absolutely amazing. So I know we're coming close to the time, and I do really appreciate this question from Ava in regards to all of you getting to connect before you leave. This is where students now, if you would like to use the chat feature, I have heard rumors that there is a group chat or a Snapchat out there. So this is now the time to take a few minutes to put your handles in, whatever it might be. Make sure you're sending it to everyone and not just the host. But please feel free to do that. Unfortunately, we don't have the bandwidth to necessarily start our own Instagram accounts and everything like that. So students definitely feel free to take a moment to do that as well. Let me know though. Okay.
I would put a plug in to if you haven't, follow our Instagram.
Yes.
Corey has done an absolutely amazing job in January leading the Instagram. So much so that she will probably lead it next year as well. So something to think about. Get onto that Instagram. Make sure you guys can follow that, and you can start connecting that way as well.
Is it letting y'all put in the chat? Maybe am I just failing at this? No. Okay, thank you, Amy, for letting me know. Let me see. How many years of Zoom have we been on now? I don't know. Maybe Corey, if maybe what we can do is if all of the students out there go and follow at cfc.ichs. Corey, I'm giving you some more work here, but maybe you could create a post allowing students to comment that I'm doing iCharleston, I'm doing iCharleston, for them to connect that way. Does that sound okay?
Yep, that sounds good. I know I saw quite a few people have already been checking out the Instagram, but definitely give it a follow if you haven't already. We're doing features on each site location. So we've done London and Dublin so far, and we're in the middle of Rome week.
Awesome. Great. Well, we do not want to take up any more of y'all's evening tonight. Should you have more questions after tonight, please feel free to reach out to myself. My email is all online as well. And then you can also reach out to iCharleston at cfc.edu. Is it iCHS at cfc.edu? iCHS at cfc.edu. Feel free to send your questions that way as well. We appreciate y'all joining us this evening. We cannot wait for you all to join our community abroad and at College of Charleston. And we wish y'all a wonderful evening, and we'll be talking soon.